Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are in the world. This here is the Great Human Reconnect. I'm your host, Hayden Binney, and today we're with a special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Belinda, and I am so excited to be here.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
So, Belinda, run us through what do you do?
So, I am currently the manager at a strip club in Brisbane, and I also co own a sales company for spicy dancers.
When you normally tell people what you do, what's the biggest misconception they normally have?
I think people are just a little bit surprised. Like, it's not a profession that is super, super, super common. And then I find when I tell people, it's just like the onslaught of questions, which I actually love because I think it's super important to get more information about the industry.
Yeah.
And as we were kind of talking about, it is heavily stigmatized, it is quite taboo. And I find a lot of it is due to actually just like misinformation rather than like actual judgment about the industry, I'd say.
What are normally like the big questions you get asked?
I get asked like what actually happens in these types of clubs. I get asked about, oh my God, like does this just make you hate men? Is it super, super gossipy around the girls? Is it like a super like toxic work environment? And it makes me so happy to say, like, no, it is actually like the most, in my experience, the most supportive, most like kind and like really positive work environment that I have ever worked in across any industry ever.
So, you're talking about obviously the misconceptions people have. What are the biggest ones, and what's the biggest thing people say to you when you say that? Like, do you ever get sort of cussed out for it and stuff like that?
I've been super lucky where like all the conversations I've had about this industry in person are very, very respectful and like very, very like, yeah, like inquisitive. Is that a word?
Yep.
Inquisitive and like curious. Online, it's a bit of a different story because people can get like quite passionate about this, that, and everything. But in terms of like the biggest misconceptions that I kind of get asked when I bring up what I do for work, I get the whole, isn't being a dancer at a club drugs, alcohol, the broke dancer type of like archetype. And it's like, how do you like facilitate being around that environment? And it's interesting because I think that's quite like an old reality for people in this industry. Majority 99% of the girls that I work with they don't drink, they don't do drugs, they come in and make a lot of money and they go home to their partners and they go home to their animals, and it's a positive thing. It's not like a hole that people get stuck in anymore, I find.
A lot of people normally say it's a certain type of person that gets into the industry due
Mm.
to maybe what's happened in their personal life.
Mm.
Is that true, or is it just a lie we've been told?
Really good question. I think that the industry can be can be dark. I think that it is a place where people can get super lost, and I think it does obviously expose you to things that can be quite dangerous. And I think that there is definitely an element to the industry that does attract people that have had really bad experiences in life, that feel a certain type of way about men, that have certain issues with drugs and with alcohol. So I think it's definitely an element. I think it actually does come down to the club, in my opinion. And it comes down to the standards, and it comes down to like the environment and the culture where you work. I've seen girls come from, for lack of a better word, some of like the dodgy clubs, step in through our doors, and suddenly they're clean. Suddenly they're not doing drugs. Suddenly they're not drinking alcohol. Suddenly they're making more money that they've ever made. And I think it's about who you surround yourself with, because a lot of the girls where I work are like multi six figure, like I would say business owners. Like they're coming home with like money that they work so hard for, and they're doing it in a really, really positive way where it's pure hard work and they stay away from all of like the dark stuff.
Before we sort of dive into the sort of sales side of things, I'm curious. I've got to ask,
Yeah.
what does like what's the average shift for someone that's say working in a club, and like what is someone actually earning? Because you can put into ChatGPT, Google,
Mm.
find out like is there a lot of money to be made?
100%. So each club operates differently. So each club will have their own way of like how they facilitate the girls in their club. So dancers are not employees of a club, they're contractors. So they must have their own ABNs and they must like run their own business through the different clubs. So some clubs will charge dancers a chair hire fee, which means that basically these dancers will basically hire the venue in order to make their money in like a kind of a business sense. So some clubs will charge like a 45% cut for the dancers, and then those dancers get paid out at the end of the night. So, and then some clubs will charge a door fee, which is where the dancer pays at the start of the night to work, and then they get to keep 100% of what they make. So each club kind of generates it differently. But I would say that like in busy season, in like, and I can only speak to the club that I kind of work at, but in busy season when everything's happening, you're looking at anywhere from like our top earner girls, you're looking at anywhere from like 1800 to like 2.5K a night. It's a night that you're earning. So obviously some girls are, you know, better hustlers than others. Some you'll walk home with $0, no matter how good at sales you are, no matter how good a dancer you are. There'll be nights where you'll work 10 hours and you'll walk home with $0. And that's just a fact. But in terms of on those good nights, that's kind of like the scope of where some of our girls are earning.
So what got you into the more agency side of things, running the course?
The founding Spicy Sales Academy was an idea that we had with the management team of the venue that I currently work at. And these girls are some of my absolute best friends. And you see so often girls that are absolutely drop dead beautiful, that are so funny, that have the best personalities, but they're not making any money. And it's because they don't know how to sell. And it's either a confidence issue or it's a strategy issue. And I think we wanted to kind of bridge that gap where it's like we see night after night after night how much earning capacity is actually in this industry and how you can be in this industry for a year and set yourself up for the rest of your life. And we see girls do that. But the amount of girls we see do that are unfortunately like few and far between because fast money in is normally fast money out. So I think starting the Spicy Sales Academy was on one hand to educate girls about the strategy and bringing actual sales and like business strategy into this industry because it's applicable to everything. It's like you being a car salesman, like you would use those skills throughout your life now. Like if you know sales, it will stand you in very good stead for any career ever. And then the pillar two of the academy is the financial literacy. And it's the education about how to use this money that you're getting to invest, to buy property, to save. And again, bringing that like business experience into actually saving and holding the money that you're earning.
I'd like to assume that you'd say you're a pretty good salesperson. I mean, where does your expertise come from? Like, were you previously before you were in the clubs? Like, do you have like experience in this, or have you always just been switched on when it comes to selling stuff?
I've always just been like a massive people person,
Yeah.
I think. And both of my parents are business owners, and my dad in particular is a very, very good salesperson. And I would say that he's a very good salesperson. And like, yes, he knows a lot of business strategy. He's like very like intelligent, but he's just watching him interact with people is insane. So I think I picked up a lot of that from him and from like shadowing him in his businesses and kind of going along to his events and all that jazz. And then when I was 18, I started a women's empowerment like event
Mhm.
that ran once every year. And in order to run that, I had to generate investors and sponsorships. So I think putting myself in rooms super, super early where like I did have to pitch to $1 million business owners and people that have been in the business world for a long time and having to kind of trial and error what works and what doesn't work, I think has definitely helped me now in this profession. But I think, again, being in this specific industry since I was 18, starting off as a bartender, I think you just pick up a lot. Like you're interacting with hundreds of customers a night. And you're also surrounded by women who are also very good at what they do and very good at sales. So I think I've been just exposed to a lot, which I'm like a little sponge. And I think I've soaked up as much as I possibly can.
So, with your sales agency, are you working predominantly with just women? Do you work with any men at all, or
At the moment, no.
no?
And predominantly we're only working with like specifically dancers.
Dancers, okay.
So obviously this industry is like very wide and we will 100% open up our doors to other people in this industry as we kind of go through it and get like a more diverse, for lack of a better word, like product offering. But at the moment, all of our experience is primarily in the clubs and in dancers in particular. So I think we would have to get some education under our belt
Yeah.
in order to kind of open up those doors.
If you strip everything back, what do you think you're actually teaching these women to sell?
They're selling themselves.
Yep.
And I don't mean that in the way of like their body or anything, but they're selling a service. Like they're not just selling lap dances. No one comes into a club for a lap dance. They come into the club for intimacy. They come into the club for connection. They come into the club to be seen or to feel special or to have that 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour of like genuine connection with someone. So the girls that I see make the most money in this club and have the most success and do it without burning out, do it from a place of, I guess, being themselves and genuinely like having a real connection with the people that walk through the doors. And again, stripping back, pun, stripping back the stereotypes of like the fun party girl, like drugs and alcohol, like let's go, go, go. Some customers definitely want that, but most customers come into the club just for connection, and the girls that can utilize that are the girls that make the most money.
Now, are you teaching people, say, how to one connect better, or are you teaching them a proven process, like something that you know that they can follow step by step is going to increase what they're earning?
I think what we teach is the fact that every girl is going to have like a unique hustle style.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is as you are outside of the club is how you need to be inside of the club. The reason that people are drawn to you outside of the club, the reason why you have friends, have a partner, your natural like personality type, that's why people are drawn to you. That's what makes you magnetic. So you have to kind of copy and paste that into the club. And that is where most girls will struggle because it's obviously a very vulnerable position that you're putting yourself in terms of you're opening yourself up to rejection. And it's much easier to be rejected from a very fake version of yourself than it is with the real version of yourself. So I think what we teach primarily is the fact that in order to have the most success, you need to have your own unique hustle style. And then inside of your own unique hustle style, we teach the proven strategies that are going to get you into making money and into the lap rooms specifically.
So, would you say then the inability to be able to sell yourself better for what you'll teach people is the big difference between, say, someone being successful at the job, making those few $1,000s a night versus, say, someone that's making nothing or very little?
100%. I think you can be the most attractive girl to ever walk the planet of the earth. You can have the best personality known to mankind. If you can't sell and if you can't connect, because I think back in the day, it used to be a thing of like you just had to be pretty and visible. And the amount of guys that would come through the doors, they'd be like, oh my God, I want you, because there was a shortage of girls. In this economy now, more girls are in the industry, and in most clubs, less men are coming through the doors.
Yeah.
People don't have as much expendable income. So you have to hustle and you have to approach and you have to be proactive in the way that you are selling. It's not just good enough to be gorgeous anymore, unfortunately. Like you have to be intentional with the way that you are selling. And it is 100%, like without shadow of a doubt, the number one difference between who makes money.
Would you have a hot take on, say, something that traditional sales would disagree with on one sort of aspect that works better in your industry?
I would say that traditional sales kind of looks at selling, I guess, like the product. And obviously, some people would agree and disagree. I know that in the coaching industry now, it's like the way that we're selling is different. We're not selling products anymore, like we are selling experiences. But I would say the biggest difference that I'm seeing between like classic sales is the very like fake kind of leading from like maybe a little bit of mistrust, a little bit of like the typical like sleazy salesman kind of like stereotype, especially in again like something like car sales, like
Yeah,
the really funny like salesman stereotype.
100%.
I would say that in the club, the number one difference between a typical sales and like a, I guess for lack of a better word, like a strip club sale is again, you're selling like person to person. Like you're not selling a physical thing. There's no physical thing that you're giving them that they can take home. It's purely a service, it's purely an experience. And it's something that 40 girls are also selling at the exact same time to the exact same people. So it is about unlocking that unique hustle style and what unique experience only you can give, and then leveraging that.
We've spoken about the women for a while. Now let's speak about the men.
Hmm.
Being involved in this industry, what have you learned about men most?
I have learnt that men are very, very easy to connect with in the way of, I think that a lot of the girls in this industry develop quite a like a resentment or a hatred towards men because they are exposed to the worst of the worst in terms of, you get the husbands that are coming in and you're in a dance with them and you're looking at their phone and it's a wall screen background of their kids and their wife. And you're like, oh man, this doesn't feel good. So I think there is a lot of mistrust in the industry around men. And I think a lot of girls will use that as a, oh my God, all men cheat, all men are crap. And I think that's such a dangerous mindset to get into because you also get the men coming through the club that genuinely just want an experience, or they're coming through their bucks party and they want to have fun. And I think it's really interesting it's like a round of like hot speed dating. I think speaking to so many different men from so many different like walks of life that have wives and kids, and sometimes they come in with their wife. And it's that type of interaction. And you meet so many amazing people in this industry. And it, again, can be super, super positive.
Off topic a little bit. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on men coming to, say, strip clubs and stuff for bucks parties, stuff like that? You hear half the women online, they're sort of divided. It's like,
Yeah.
one, that's cheating, or the
Mhm.
other half is like, go do it, have fun, it means nothing. What are your thoughts? Or does it really depend on the man?
I think it depends on the relationship.
Okay.
Like, I think it kind of just comes down to the most like basic of like communication and boundaries.
Yep.
Like, if you're in a relationship and your wife has said, hey, this is something that I feel really strongly about, like you going into an environment like this, I consider cheating and I consider that really disrespectful. And like, that's a hard boundary for me. That is a boundary. And just like any boundary in any relationship, if you want to be in a relationship with that person, that's a boundary that you need to honor. And if you break that boundary, then I don't think that's good at all. But I think it kind of comes down to that communication. And you get some guys come into the club and they're like, oh, the missus said I can look, but I can't touch. And that's a boundary. And that's awesome. And as long as he's adhering to that, I think it just comes down to the different people in the relationship. And I think there can't be any judgment about those certain boundaries in terms of in my life, in my relationships in the past. I personally haven't cared if they go into the strip club. I don't care if you get a lap dance. I don't care if you just sit and watch. My thing is actually, my boundary is like, you're not going to go in and do nothing. Please, like, bring money to tip the girls. Like, don't be one of those guys that goes in and like gets a 4x gold and just sits there like a creep and like doesn't actually like engage with the girls, because the girls don't get paid to be there hourly. They only get paid if you pay them. So my boundary in relationships, like, if you're going to go into a strip club, be respectful, like tip the girls, like make sure that like you're tipping them for a service that they're offering you. So I think it's funny. I think each different relationship's going to mediate that differently.
What are your thoughts on the sort of notion that a lot of women in sort of those different sex industries manipulate men?
They do manipulate men.
Yeah.
100%. It's sales. Like, I think sales is a manipulation of a situation. And I think that when you're talking to anyone, and in this case, it's men, you are going to play into how they feel and play into their emotions. And I think that you obviously can use manipulation for good and you can use manipulation for bad. I think it doesn't really matter what you're selling. If you're selling a car, for example, and a guy is like, oh, like, I don't know, the missus is like a little bit hesitant. What you're going to say is, well, Jim, I think that your wife is going to feel really, really good driving this car. And it's because of the way that your kids play soccer on the weekend. That's manipulation. So I think that, yes, some girls in the industry, you can say, manipulate for the worse. But in my opinion, I think sales is manipulation.
What you said was interesting. Did make me actually stop and think for a second.
I saw you react. Yeah.
Because look, I probably look at it more as sort of like that face value. I look at say my biggest say problem with a lot of things is like the OnlyFans sort of world and stuff like
Yes.
that.
Yep.
Obviously, always see say like these men online posting like, I run an OnlyFans agency. You see the girls posting all their stuff, and I feel like a lot of men these days are very lonely.
Yes.
you may or may not agree. I
Yeah, I
feel like we're
agree.
in a day and age where it's like, in a way, beautiful women, sex, stuff like that, so easily accessible.
Mm.
And it's like I feel like a lot of men in their day to day life, they're like, I recently spoke with a divorce coach, and he
Yeah, I
basically
saw that
announced,
episode.
yeah,
Yeah, it was
he
amazing.
mentioned it's like, why would I talk to you? You're a five when I can
Mm.
say access a 10 over here. Like men could say, I said, go into a strip club, see beautiful women, and be like, spend my time with them. I don't know. I feel like it can then lead down a dangerous road in terms, obviously, self worth, how men respect, like how they sort of respect themselves, and then internally how they then respect other women because
Yeah.
they have access to all these things where they can do stuff, use stuff that's a lot more extreme.
Mm.
I don't know. I feel like that was my way, sort of looking at it. Like, hearing you say it, I'm like sitting here. I'm like, I guess yeah, all sales is manipulation.
Yeah. But I think it's because I watched that episode actually, and I did hear that exact clip that you're talking about. And I think there is validity to that.
Yeah.
And I think that especially I would say I would argue more in the online space
Mm.
because I think when men come into the club, it's a physical person that you're interacting with. And I think you're always going to get a better experience talking to an actual human being. But I think in terms of with men, with and women, but with the access to really extreme sexual things on everyone's phone, I can 100% see the danger in that. I think it just comes, and again, I think you have to kind of acknowledge that. But I think similarly to, for example, like the bodybuilding world, like we can acknowledge that in the bodybuilding world, eating disorders are a really big problem, and people will compete and they push their body to the absolute extreme, and then a lot of people in the aftermath of that do develop eating disorders. Are we going to vilify the bodybuilding industry, or is it going to be maybe that's something that needs to be addressed, but it kind of comes down to like person to person. So I think moving the blame and the judgment away from the industry and having more education about how to mitigate the potential dangers, like having all that at the access to fingertips, or men not being able to connect with people outside of the industry, or again not being able to connect with real women that aren't tens. I think those two things can kind of coexist.
Speaking of obviously eating disabilities, stuff like that,
Mm.
what toll does it take on women and stuff, like with their idea of like what they look like when their income can so strongly be related on how they look or how other people perceive them?
100%. I think this is something that comes up a lot in this industry, and it is one of those dark things. My experience, surprisingly, in terms of in the conversations that I'm having with these women, and even how the hiring process looks different to how it did maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Genuinely, I know that some people might throw this around as fluff, like we hire all types. In this industry now, it is all types. Like there is not one, I guess, ideal body type or look or even personality type that gets hired in these clubs, and not even that gets booked in these clubs. Like it is, you do not have to be, again, lack of a better word, a 10 to make disgusting amounts of money in this industry. And I think that obviously there is the side of it where, yeah, rejection sucks. And sometimes people can say awful things about your body when you're in this industry. And it sucks and it really hits and it definitely does take a toll. But I think the notion of, the clubs that used to like weigh girls every single time they come into shift, like that is just not prevalent in the industry anymore. Thank God.
What would you say to someone like strategies and stuff to deal with rejection?
I think it's kind of like the most basic and like silly little thing, but it's like you can walk into a lolly shop and a guy can be like looking at all these amazing lollies, and it can be the best lollies that have ever graced the planet of the earth. If that guy is craving chocolate,
I saw this, yeah.
yeah, he's not going to buy a lolly. Doesn't mean that you're not the best lolly out there. It just means that people have different needs and different wants, and that can change day to day, minute to minute, second to second. So I think having that acknowledgement that my worth is not tied to whether or not this guy books me. My worth is not tied to how long this guy books me for. and my worth is not tied to how much money I make on this specific day is super important. And it is a hard mindset to kind of nail, but I think it's the same in any industry where it is sales. I think you just have to kind of build that tougher skin, get more runs on the board, more positive experiences on the board, and you'll be able to walk away going, I just wasn't that guy's cup of tea, and that's fine.
What's the biggest thing about human nature that you've learned being involved in all this?
I'm going to swing this more towards like, I guess, the women because even though I manage the venue, I'm more so leaning towards like, I'm more so manage the team.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that in, not to sound super cringy, but like in like womanhood, getting women together in any industry and in arguably to outside opinion, like a very like competitive and bitchy and sometimes very dark industry, the positive moments that happen on the floor, at the back, in the change room, girls exchanging outfits, girls recommending each other to customers if they aren't that customer's cup of tea, the laughs that I had up on stage, like the kindness that happens when women get together in any industry is actually like magical. And it's the reason why I do this job. And it's the reason it's kept me in this industry through all the hard nights, through all the shitty customer experiences. It's the women that have kept me in this job.
I was recently listening to a podcast one night with Steiny, and he did a podcast with Togi, and I think it's Sky Bree is her name.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And she was talking about being, obviously, I know it's a slightly different aspect of the
Hmm.
industry, but she was talking about it is almost impossible for her to actually have a relationship with a man because no one, her word, I can't remember the word for word, but it was like no one wanted to be with her because obviously that stuff of her is out on the internet for people to see. Like, do you find that a big issue with women? Obviously, there are going to be some exceptions where some people have loving partners and stuff that
Yeah.
support them and stuff. But for the most part, do you find it is a hard industry to actually have healthy relationships?
Yes, I think it is. And I disagree with the notion of girls being like, oh, well, someone I was speaking to said that he didn't want to date me because I was a dancer and, ugh, what an asshole. I'm like, well, you're going to work every night and like men are touching you naked.
Mm.
That's a very extreme thing. And that is 100% something that we can understand that some men would feel very uncomfortable with. And that is 100% fine. Surprisingly, I would say majority of the girls that work where I work actually do have really, really incredible relationships. And again, it just depends on different boundaries. It depends on values. And I don't mean that in the way of like dancing is like immoral. I just mean that in terms of like comfortability and in terms of even the hours and like being away for nights and the emotional toll that dancing can have, like whether you're in a position to support your partner who's coming home one night and going, I was just assaulted. And it's something that is extreme. And that I think it's less taboo now in terms of majority of the girls I work with are in really, really long-term loving relationships. They have husbands, they have wives, they have partners, they have kids. So I think it's not impossible. I wouldn't even say it's super, super hard to find a partner who is comfortable with that. But I think it adds an element to a conversation when you're looking for potential partners that otherwise wouldn't be there.
It's interesting because personally, myself, I don't think I could do it.
Yep, so fair.
Look, a lot of people might come at like it might be an insecurity and stuff like that. Who knows? As you said, I probably couldn't do it more so on the side of thing that's like very more traditional, very more
Mm,
like behind closed doors. Everything's a little bit more
mm,
private, stuff like that. But I guess
yeah,
the world is changing. A lot more people are doing
yeah,
things differently.
yeah, 100%. And I think it's just important to have like no, like I feel like there's so much unnecessary judgment about what you will and will not look for in a relationship and in a partner. And I think it's personal preference, as is everything.
What are your goals, sort of moving forward with the sales agency?
With Spicy Sales Academy,
Yeah,
I would say my mission is to get girls out of the industry. And that is not coming from like any morality that I think this industry is bad.
Mm.
It's just you can't be a dancer forever, and you physically can't. Like it's really taxing on your body. It's taxing on your mental health. And my goal is to get girls earning as much money as possible in the industry to set themselves up for when they decide to leave. Because where you start running into issues in this industry is when girls feel like they have to stay, where they can't leave, where the money is not better anywhere else, where they've gotten themselves in this cycle of fast money in, fast money out. And that to me is when it gets dangerous because you don't actually want to be in this industry for the love of it. You're in it purely because you don't have any other options. So I think our goal with this company is to get as many girls earning as much as possible and then open up pathways to buy property, to invest, to set themselves up, set their families up. And that is definitely where the company is moving in the way of education about investing and pathways for girls to do that that aren't super inaccessible and super confusing, just opening up more education around it.
Obviously, the industry as a whole, it's the oldest industry in the entire world.
Yeah.
But I feel these days a lot, it's ever becoming too oversaturated. Obviously, the trend of all the girls on OnlyFans, a lot more people doing it because I feel like it's
Mm.
sort of pushed to be, it's a lot more accepting. So a lot more girls are jumping into the industry.
Yeah.
Is there becoming too much competition, and can there be too much competition, or there's always going to be enough men out there willing to keep paying?
I think that, like, factually, yes, like the industry is oversaturated, but I think I don't really subscribe to the notion of like oversaturation because I think it kind of leads into a bit of like a scarcity mindset where the girls that make money are always going to make money.
Yeah.
And again, that comes into sales strategy. So it's like, I love the mentality of you could have 200 girls in a venue in a lineup. I'm always going to make money. And I like that mindset because it's like, I'm not in competition with anyone, not because I'm better than anyone, but because I back myself in order to make money. We know what we're doing. There is no competition because there is always going to be that demand. And there is always going to be, unfortunately, and like my goal is to change that, but there are always going to be girls that know how to sell, and there are always going to be girls that don't know how to sell. And the girls that don't know how to sell are never going to be able to touch the girls that know how to sell. And it is our mission to like close that gap. Um, but I think that as the economy is decreasing and the amount of girls working in clubs are increasing, I think it's so important to go in with more than just a luck strategy and more than just a gorgeous face.
What would you say the industry is doing wrong? What's your biggest gripe with the industry?
I think that, and again, this might be biased based on the company, but I just don't think girls are like utilizing it well enough. And that's definitely one aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it is obviously this is not prevalent in the club that I work at, thank God. But some of the horror stories I hear about management in other venues is like actually appalling to me. Like it's this industry again can be so dark and can be so extreme. And management and even staff members and girls and owners of venues is like people can be so cruel and so mean. And I think the drug and like alcohol issue in some clubs is really scary. And owners and management pushing that on girls is really scary. So I think
In
that
terms of like selling it, or
yeah, and
yeah,
like forcing people to do it. Like I've gone into clubs where they literally like I'm looking at the manager and he's like dealing drugs to the girls or booking the girls himself to come and hang out with himself in booths. And that to me is like the abuse of power and the fact that you have very very young women in these venues. Like personally I have opinions about like what age you should start dancing,
tell us
but
them.
I really think that when you're 18, 19, I think that you're still very young. And I know that people are growing up quicker nowadays, but whilst I'm such an advocate for how positive this industry can be, I think that you're still very young at 18. And I think that you are exposed to a lot and you are still very impressionable. And I have no issues with 18-year-olds coming into my club because I know how I manage, I know how I run that venue, and I know that they are in safe hands. I still wouldn't necessarily root for it, but I feel confident taking them into our venue. I do not have that same opinion for other venues. And that's not me trying to bag out any other club. It's just the fact that I've seen girls go into this industry at 18, fresh faced, beautiful, looking like they've just, come out of the womb and leave in drug addiction, in alcohol addiction, and broker than when they first came in. And to me, that falls down to the club and that falls down to how you're taking care of your girls. And that is like what I'm most passionate about in this industry.
Let's take away your club for the
Mm-hmm.
moment. Let's
Mm-hmm.
deal with like majority.
Yep.
Obviously, we've spoken drug addiction, stuff like that. I believe porn addiction, stuff like that's a
Mm.
massive thing. Do you find there is a bigger addiction in, say, men coming into these clubs, spending potentially their whole life savings? And how does that make you feel? Like, if that happens, like, is it something you're there going to be like trying to stop it? Or is it sort of gets to a bit of a crossroads where it's like, you're here obviously encouraging these girls to make as much as they can, but you're like, take the money, do it.
Mm. It is very, very rare I that anyone encounters someone that's coming in and like spending their entire life savings. I think it's one of those things where unfortunately, like the responsibility is on the guy.
Yeah.
Like I think that very rarely are we going to know that he's spending his whole life savings. Like we could get a guy coming in and booking the girls all night, spending 20K. And my first thought is like, oh my God, like what does this guy do for work? Like he must be falling. Like very rarely am I going, oh my God, like I wonder if this is his whole life savings. I think the morality for me comes into level of intox. I think that if a guy is too drunk to be spending his money in terms of eyes are shut, like can't even tap his card, that to me doesn't sit well. And that's something that as a club you would mitigate. But in terms of like, I guess, navigating the emotional regulation of men spending their own money, it's something that I think we have to kind of release responsibility for.
I agree. Everyone has to take accountability for what they do.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you ever had to sort of sign, obviously working in the club, any NDAs, of girls signing stuff like working with, say, high level people, celebrities, athletes that come in? Is that a very common thing?
With our club specifically, we have no private room in
Yeah.
terms of like in our rooms, it's there's nowhere you can go at the moment that's like 100% there is no one else
Okay.
in the venue. So we don't attract like crazy like celebrity stories. We've had celebrities come in, but to my knowledge, it's never been like an NDA. I've never signed an NDA. I've
Yeah.
never made any of my girls sign an NDA. I think that unfortunately, or fortunately, because of the way the world's going at the moment with social media and lack of privacy for high value people, I think it's moving into like more hotel parties and booking these girls for like out calls to kind of come to you and party with these guys in their penthouses, in their houses, in their hotel rooms, rather than going into clubs.
What impact do you want to leave in the industry? Like, if obviously we're all going to die one day, but if you can sort of be known for sort of leaving one important thing behind, what is it?
I would say that I want to be remembered for improving the experience that these girls have in the industry and shifting the narrative from the fast money, quick money out kind of thing. I want girls to be able to say that if they've interacted with me, that they were able to run themselves in this industry like a business. I think the legacy I want to leave professionally is I want these girls to walk away having run their own business and having set themselves up as a business would, and having that level of like education and strategy to use this time in a very extreme industry to set themselves up in an extreme way. And then I would say personally, I just want people, the legacy that I want to leave is that just like basic human kindness and the fact that in an extreme industry where things are happening for the better and for the worse all the time, I think the least that we can do is be really, really kind to each other. And understanding, because again, you're dealing with 40, 50 women a night who have family issues, who have just broken up with their partner, who are pregnant and are, their abortions the next day. It's like you're coming into really personal situations where you wouldn't normally get in like a classic corporate job. So I think the legacy that I want to leave is just like basic understanding and kindness to these girls.
We've spoken about the men, we've spoken about the women.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit more about you.
Mhm.
I asked before, obviously, women in the industry have trouble with relationships. Does what you do ever impact sort of those, yeah, personal relationships, romantic relationships, and stuff like that?
I have a different issue where I say that like I'm just such a workaholic. Like I've never come into contact with a man that I've been interested in dating that's had an issue with what I do for work ever. And that's in any position in this industry at all. Which is super great for me. My issue is the fact that, I'm working 4 nights a week from 6:30 to 5 o'clock in the morning. And then, I'm sleeping until like midday, getting up, working on our company. And I think the season that I'm in at the moment is that's what I want to be doing. And obviously, having a family and having kids is definitely a massive goal of
Yep.
mine. But I think at the moment, I am just fully leaning into my work because it's at the moment what I'm in love with. And that might sound super lame. But I think that I'm super lucky in the way that I have never had any pushback on like what I do for work. It's always the same issue, which I would have in any industry where it's like, you work too much, is my hindrance with relationships at the moment.
What motivates you? Is it the money or is it chasing freedom? What is it? Besides obviously helping the girls and
Yeah, of
stuff, like
course.
what's your drive?
I have just always been very career driven.
Yep.
Like I obviously we all love money. I love the fact that I'm able to invest and like build, a future of freedom for myself and like for my family and for my kids and all that jazz. And it's definitely an element of it. I want to set myself up. But I just love working.
Yep.
Like I love, pushing myself and being challenged and always having something that I'm having to grow into and push myself into. So I think that's for me, I just love to work.
Would you say you're a motivated individual or a disciplined individual?
I would say primarily motivated. I think that I think that I'm motivated and then I get myself into situations where like discipline is not really an option. Like you just have to do it. Like I don't even really count it as discipline because it's like for me, there is no other option. Like I'm not super flaky in the way of career. Like if I say I'm going to do something professionally, it will be happening, whether it's going to completely burn me out or whether it's like 100% the right thing for me to do at that time. I'm so motivated that I get myself into situations and then there's like no way to back out of that. So I'm like, well, I guess we're here now.
Okay, you're so set on obviously where you say you're going to end up. Where are you going to be in 5 years?
I my long time goal is to own a strip club.
Yep.
And that's probably not going to happen in 5 years because of just how much money and experience and legalities are around owning a club like that. But my long time goal is to own a club and to have this company be an absolute force in this industry. And then obviously in 5 years, I do have that personal goal of marriage and kids. And I think to get to that point, I think I have to kind of put in the reps now and put in the hard work now so that when I do get to a point where my career is kind of running itself and it is primarily based on like that passive income, that then having that family at that time is super important to me because I was blessed with a very present family unit and that's 100% how I want to show up as a mother as well.
Couple of things from there, but I'll start with this one. Curious, how much does it cost to set up a strip club?
Really good question. So, to my knowledge, it you have to have a building. And whether you own the building or whether you're leasing the building, you have to have an adult entertainment permit. And this is, please don't quote me on this if this is wrong, but to my knowledge, you have to have an adult entertainment license in the building for a year before you even open the doors.
Okay.
So I don't know why.
Sounds a little bit backwards.
Sounds a little bit backwards. So you have to have the capital in order to,
Go 12 months without making any money.
yes, which is really
Okay.
interesting. I don't know how it kind of goes with if you're buying a club that's already open. I think that's different. But in terms of clubs at the moment are selling for like anywhere from like 7 to 15 million. Um, and then obviously you have to, if you're buying, it depends if you're buying the club and like you're buying the business. It depends if you're just buying the building and you have to get the adult entertainment permit. It depends on if you're buying the building with a license, but you're shelling the business. You're putting your own club into the building with the license. It's very complicated. And I'm speaking out of not a high level of education right now.
That's fine.
A lot of money,
A lot
I
of
would
money.
say millions and millions and millions of dollars.
And how much can you make a year owning one? Ballpark. I know there's plenty of
Such a good
things varying
question.
on it, but if you can get to the point where you believe you can get it starting
Mm.
one, what would you expect to actually be making in your pocket year on year?
It would really depend on like what your break even point is on these clubs, but I would say like a high, like I don't even know how much our club earned this year. But I would say like a high performing club in terms of like, one of the best clubs in your area, I would say. You're looking at like again, like millions and millions of dollars. And as an owner, most owners obviously aren't in the venue. Um, that's all passive.
Mm.
And again, obviously, a lot of owners would reinvest um, into back into the business or leave the money in the business. So it just depends on like your business structure. But in every job in this industry, it is very, very high earning, whether you're a bartender or whether you're the owner of the club.
What does your family think about what you do for work?
It took me a hot second to tell them.
Yeah.
Um,
Was that just due to the stigma, just not wanting to handle and deal with the hard questions?
Yeah, my parents are very corporate in the way
Okay.
of like the business that they own is very corporate. We had like a very wholesome family unit. My dad is like a Disney dad, like very, very wholesome family, corporate business. I was also owning my own business at that time doing event management. So I was kind of going in a path that I think I knew that my parents were very proud of me for. So I think it took me so long to tell my parents that I was even bartending at a club like that. And when I did, the reaction was, I don't even know why I was nervous because the reaction was like, if you're happy and if you're safe, then we're proud of you. And I think the more I kind of got into this industry and now that I'm in management and I've got the company, my parents' thing is always basically as long as you're successful. Like, we don't really care what industry you're in, as long as you're the best at what you do, kind of thing. And as long as you're happy, as long as you're safe, and as long as you can prioritize what matters to you. I'm so lucky with the fact that my parents are so non-judgmental about everything and they ask me questions about it. I haven't gotten them into the club yet, goal for next year. But I'm super lucky.
Have you lost any friends or any people in your life going down this career path?
If I've lost anyone, it's only because of the hours.
Yeah.
In terms of like, I have not lost any friends because of the industry. It's purely because you work a 9 to 5, I work a 6:30 to 5 a.m. And it's like, when do we see each other kind of thing. But again, you make time for the people that you want to make time for. So I wouldn't say I've lost anyone. No, I'm really lucky.
In any way, would you ever describe yourself as sort of like helping these girls grow and stuff like that in a weird way, like a modern day pimp?
Um, no, because I think my knowledge of a pimp is that oh, that was an awesome question. My knowledge of a pimp is that like you're like pimping them out for money, which I guess is kind
You
of
kind of are.
but I kind of see that like I don't tell these girls who to approach or who they have to get dances with. In my opinion, like we just facilitate, I guess the venue's a pimp. I don't know. No, is
That
the
could be a new
answer.
marketing strategy.
Modern day
Blinged out
pimps.
everything modern day
Yes,
pimps.
I'll 50% cut you in. I think that could
Perfect,
be
just for the
our next
name.
marketing strategy.
I should have asked before, but I was only just thinking about
Yeah.
it just now. Like, run us through. Obviously, you go into the club. Obviously,
Yes.
you've got the thing. Obviously, the girls they can market themselves, or they
Mm.
can sell. is like the music playing, like I've never been into one.
Yeah.
Like, is the environment set up in a way of like lighting music? Is there a psychology behind that to get people in a
Mm.
mood to open up the wallets and stuff like that? Or people
Yeah.
not really thinking about it? Or is that something that they're missing out on because they're not looking into the minor little things they can do
Mm.
where they have tables, where they have lights, stuff like that?
Yeah, 100%. I think so the two clubs that I've worked in, the first club was more of like you would describe it as like a gentleman's lounge. So the music was very, very low.
Hmm.
It was full like as well lit as this room in
Yeah.
terms of like very like it's a sit down and conversation club, high shelf liquor, like that type of thing, longer bookings kind of situation. The club that I'm at right now is definitely more of like the party. We've got the super loud music. We've got DJs in on the weekends. You've got your smoke machines. Our stage is like a three-part stage. One of the stages like a full like it like turns on like a robo kind of thing. You've got the strobe lights. Like it's much more of a performance club and like an entertainment venue. And 100% it's all strategy. It's even one of those things where it's like if we're having a really slow night and I'm noticing that a lot of the guys are just sitting down talking to the girls and like it's no one's really moving, no one's really getting going for dances, not much money's flowing. I will 100% turn that music up so it kind of gets like harder and harder for them to talk out on the main floor. So they have to go into our more private rooms where the music is lower, where they can have those more intimate conversations. So it's definitely all a strategy, but each strategy is definitely club dependent.
I'm really now just sort of throwing out questions that are sort of just
Hit
coming to
me, I'm
mind.
so
What's
ready.
the demographic of men that come in?
We get all types. Like you get like the just turned 18 wants to come in for like
Yep.
a fun night. We get the bucks parties. We
I would
get the
imagine those just turned 18 for the worst type of people to come in.
the
The
worst
worst.
type of people.
I'm going to assume they got no money. They're very tired. They're just sort of there just for the experience.
Yeah, and look, there's a certain type of like magic to that. You know what I mean? Like I think it is one of those things
You can
where
appreciate it that
we
like
can appreciate
you
it.
you see them come in,
Yeah.
you're like, but obviously we understand.
Yeah. It's one of those things where as a dancer, you would get very frustrated because it's like, oh, like I know he's at maximum, he's gonna take me for like a 10-minute dance. You know what I mean? $90, like, kind of
Run me
thing.
through it. How much are like what does it all cost?
Yeah. So again, each club is dependent. I think at most clubs that I've worked at, your lowest dance kind of starts at like $80, $90. And then
What does that look like and for how
so
long?
it's like a 10-minute dance is like you're like $80, maybe up to $100 at some clubs. And then it goes all the way up to like hour bookings that range from like $500 to $700 depending on the club and everything. I know it's crazy,
Like run me through it.
crazy money.
I'm sitting here thinking, okay, for 10 minutes you pay $80. Like
Mm,
all like this a woman, are they naked? Are they
yeah.
dressed? Like what is it? Like
I don't actually know like what the legality is around like
what you can say?
what I can say. It's
Okay, let's just say this and like what are they like really I'm assuming are they like I'm assuming they can't touch
they're
it.
naked. They can touch.
They can
So
touch.
okay, actually, I can talk about this. So each state in Australia has different adult entertainment laws. So for example, Melbourne, you can't touch. You can just watch. The girl gets fully naked, but you can't touch. In Queensland, you can touch. Obviously you can't touch everywhere.
Yep.
But you can touch. In other states, I don't know which states, it's like a no nudity. So it's just all lingerie. So each state has different laws that those clubs have to abide by. And then some clubs, kind of a bit gray area. But in terms of
It's like the
law,
Wild West.
it's like the Wild West.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. Some of like the outback clubs, I don't even know what would happen there. But it's law is like state dependent.
That's what I'm really sort of stuck at. Like I think it's a lot more psychology behind it. It's like I wish I could sort of go inside of the men's like go there and see like what are they thinking? Like, what are
Yeah.
they really wanting? Because it's like I'll be careful how I say this. I'm not trying to say this in a rude way or
Yeah,
anything, but
yeah.
it's like you're sitting there and this woman's like just dancing in front of you and you're paying
Yeah.
money for that. Like there has to be a lot more sort of going behind as to why they
Yeah.
want that. And then do you ever get experiences where men they're sitting there, they get say like sexually frustrated and things like they try and escalate things
Yes.
where obviously it's not allowed to happen and stuff, but
Yeah.
like does that happen often?
There's an element where like, some guys will try and push boundaries in, I'm gonna call it like a passive way, in terms of they'll like ask the girl, like, can I do
Mhm.
this for a little bit extra, or can I do this for a little bit extra? And the girl's like, no, no, sorry. And it's that to me is, I'm gonna say, harmless pushing, because
Yeah.
it's not anything physical, it's not anything tangible. It's annoying. It's like, dude, can you just respect the fact that like I'm saying no?
Yeah.
And then you get the extreme cases where they do blatantly just break the law. And then that's obviously the nasty side of the industry.
I'm sitting here thinking, obviously, earlier you were saying like a lot of women are like, oh, we hate men, stuff like that. It's
Mm,
like they're probably seeing a lot of men, like the worst possible men that are sort of doing it.
yeah.
And then like you sit here and it's like, look, a lot of men really sort of talk down to sort of people that work in strip clubs and stuff. And
Mm,
like, I don't know, but sitting here, I'm assuming a statement that would probably be said was like, "Oh, you're just a stripper.
yeah.
Like who are you?" Like people don't look at them as someone having worth.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's definitely something that like we do come up across. I'm so grateful that it is like a rarity.
Hmm.
And majority of the guys I speak to at the club, and majority of the interactions the girls have at the club, are super positive. It's guys just wanting to have fun, or it's guys, who just want to have a connection, have a chat. The amount of girls that will get booked for, I kid you not, Hayden, like 8 hours, and the guy that doesn't want her to get naked, just wants her to sit there, have a chat, just a conversation. It's insane.
Are they confessing crimes or are they just talking?
I've heard some things,
Yeah.
but it's just conversation. It's like talking about his life, her life, everything. Like how you would normally, I guess, like have a conversation with someone. It's just in an environment that's a little bit different to how you would normally have it. But yeah, you hear some stories, but from the majority, it's just like a normal conversation. It's like it's surprisingly mundane.
They're just sharing their thoughts.
Just having a chat, getting to know each other, talking about like random things. Yeah.
I'm gonna reword my next question. Imagine me. I'm now a stripper.
Yes.
You've now just booked me for the next 2 minutes.
Hmm.
Tell me your deepest thoughts.
Right now, I would probably talk to you as a stripper about like work and about the fact that, we're coming into a really busy season. I'm about to go on holiday in a few days
Where
to
are you
Melbourne.
going?
We're going to Melbourne and we're
Nice.
going to Tasmania for Christmas. So I'm going with the whole family, catching up with the extended family, the grandparents. And we're doing a really, really nice like Christmas lunch.
Hmm?
And this is literally how it is. Like it's literally like this type of conversation.
I can bleep it out if you like, but
Yeah.
like, I'm curious. How do you charge the girls like
Mm.
with the like is it a month to month subscription or are they paying you a one-time fee?
Yeah, so it's no, I'm so fine talking about this. So the current program that we have launched with is called House of Hustle, and it's a 6 month like regular like coaching container. So it's billed. You can go on a payment plan weekly. You can go and pay it all up front, and it includes like the coaching calls every week. It includes access to all of our Excel spreadsheets that are used for businesses to like track like spending, has automatic tax education in that sheet as well. You get all of like we have like physical copies of trackers as well, and then they also get access to one-on-one in like an advisory support kind of situation. So they can be at the club talking to a guy, and then they can come in the back room, shoot us through a voice message, go, "Hey, I've got this customer. He's saying X, Y, and Z. I don't know how to get him over the line," and you get that real time
You're like a
support.
like when I was in cars at the sales manager, I called
Yeah,
them just to get the last little things to push it over.
yeah, literally. It's that. So it's very hands-on. And for that reason, each intake that we have in House of Hustle is like capped at like 5 people, because we want to be able to give those 5 people like 100% attention. And then obviously as we can systemize more of this, we can bring more people in, that capacity and scalability will grow. But for right now, it was really important to give these first 5 girls like the best experience possible and have like all hands on deck.
So then is it safe to assume obviously the model then it's more so less people in more of a premium service because you're sort of getting that more close knit sort of family.
100%. And I think with other offerings that we're going to be launching, it is different vibes for each kind of offering. Like we're about to launch like a passive, like a just like an online course for girls that have never worked a day in this industry that are interested in getting into it.
Yep.
And it's like a baby stripper kind of education tool where they can just learn all the information. So they're not going into the club blind, and they know what they're walking into. They know how to make money from the second they step into the club. And then obviously, as I said, we're also getting more into like the house property investing thing as well, and having education about that as well. And that'll look different to these two offerings as well. So there's going to be a bit of a mixed basket.
Who motivates you? Like, who was your inspiration? I don't want to hear mum, dad, Myth, or
Yeah.
Holly.
Yeah,
Don't want to
yeah.
hear any of them. But like,
Mhm.
who did you look up online that sort of helped shape you into who you are?
I would say so my background was in like entertainment and music specifically. So not to sound like every basic white girl on the planet, but genuinely like artists like Taylor Swift who pause, wait, don't say anything yet. Artists like Taylor Swift that create a business around what she does in terms of like super creative. Like I'm such a creative person. I love creativity. And then so people like her for the creative. And then in terms of like business owners, I would say like you've got your Brad Sugars, like Layla Hormozy, all of those, like Natalie Dawson, um, like really high up people in business that focus on like leadership and focus on team building and focus on having like a very human approach to the way that they do business. I would say those are the different type of people that inspired me. You may now rebut my Taylor Swift comment.
No. I'll be careful about it. There's like 3 topics in the world once you get me started on. You won't
Real
get.
is Taylor Swift one
It's
of
one.
them?
Oh, not specifically just her. Oh, maybe it is. Okay, why I asked that question to begin
Yes.
with?
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
follow through. Like, I always find that like you can learn a lot about someone by versus like the music they listen to, who they sort of look up to in terms of inspiration. Because like you look at someone's feed, it will tell you who they are. Like if
100%.
your feed is just constantly half naked women, it tells me a lot about you.
Yeah, of course.
If your feed's just fishing videos, tells me a lot about you. Sales, it tells me a lot about you. And but then there's a fine line between obviously looking up to people in like inspiration, like what they can do for you, versus everyday people that latch onto someone's life and live it as if it's their own.
100%.
I think for her personally, I think she was used a lot as sort of like a bit of an industry plant in a way. I think there's certain people that get placed. Her motto for a long time was single, don't need a man, boss bitch, all that sort of thing. Which then a lot of women are like, yes, don't need men. We look up to her. Now the shift's changed, obviously, her getting engaged, married. I don't know if she's married or not, to Travis
Engaged, yeah.
Kelce and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like now the shifts are all these women that were like never wanting relationships, never wanted any of this because that's what their favorite influencers wanted. They're now like, oh, I want to get married. I want to thing. Like, and it really annoys me. Like I'm seeing over social media women like crying and stuff like, oh my God, she just got engaged. This is the best day of my life. I'm like, this should not be the best day. Like, yes, you can be happy for someone, but it's just sort of people like that like, look, there's more reasons and stuff like that, but yeah, certain people grind my gears. Who grabs your gears?
Andrew Tate. I have, definite opinions on Andrew Tate. I can acknowledge that a lot of what he says is intentional to piss people off, and it's worked. And for that, as a strategy, as a business person, I can acknowledge that. I think that you can have traditional values, and I agree with traditional values in the way of like, even traditional values in the way of like more of like a stay-at-home wife, working husband. Like that to me is not my dream, but I can acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with that. I feel absolutely nothing about that. My issue with Andrew Tate is that he has a lot of very young boys looking up to him. And a lot of what he says is he's very much stating his opinion, not as his opinion in the way of like, this is how it should be for women to be happy. In terms of a lot of the videos I've seen about him, a relationship will not work if X, Y, and Z. And in order to get rich, get all these women, and get all this money, you have to be an alpha man and you have to like lead and don't let your woman say this and that and don't let her do this and that and look at me on my yacht with now all of these half naked women and all of this jazz. And I think that mentally competent people can look at that and go like, can kind of read in between the lines and go, okay, this is just a guy who's living his life. He may have some opinions I agree with. He may have some opinions I don't agree with. But I think that as a young guy looking, just how I feel about young women looking into the industry, as a young 14-year-old boy looking at Andrew Tate saying that, women can't do this, women shouldn't do that. Look at me with my yacht and Bugatti and all this stuff. I think it perpetuates a really dangerous culture where then, similarly to men looking at really extreme sexual stuff online, I think young men looking at really extreme cases of marital expectations or opinions about women is equally as dangerous in terms of it's equally as extreme. And I really just don't subscribe to anyone setting any standard about how women should or should not behave. I think you can state what type of woman you're attracted to, how you want to run your family, run your household. But he just really grinds me. What's your opinion on Andrew Tate? I would love to have this conversation.
If we had this conversation about 12 months ago, completely different. It would go a completely different way. I probably, lean more towards a fan of his, but it's very different to when I first listened to him and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, when he first came on and stuff, as you said, he got famous. He was saying things that either that may be true and stuff like that. Is how he said it was in a way to engage people and piss people off. He got famous. That's how he did it. Obviously, you got to respect. You respect that. At the time, obviously, everything he was saying, it was like, yep, I agree with everything. This is, yep. I looked into him the same unhealthy way that I criticize women looking into Taylor Swift and stuff like that for. It's like, with anybody, they're going to say stuff that you ain't going to agree with. There's going to be stuff that you disagree with. I think being willing to actually listen both sides and stuff says so much about someone. And that's why I really appreciate this conversation. It's
of course,
on paper, do we agree with a lot of things? Probably not.
Yeah.
Is this conversation going completely different to how I thought it did? 100%.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good in a good way.
100%.
And it's I look at him now as sort of it's the certain messages. I look past everything else. I'd probably more subscribe to his hard work, obviously. Nothing sort of fair. He's got to continue just sort of pushing. I listen to him more so now for the motivation, but in saying that, I don't really listen to him anymore. I know he's there. I agree with what he says, but now it's once I've now discovered who I actually am, I was lost for a long time. And for him, I sort of saw him as a father figure. I'm not close. I don't talk to my family at all.
Yeah, okay.
And stuff like that. And I was this is someone that's making me feel motivated, fired up. And I can say I fell into sort of that head, and everything he said, it was thing. I was sending things. I was saying to everyone, what color is your Bugatti?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. That looking back, it's a bit cringy and stuff. But as I've sort of grown into a person, it's I now realize there's certain aspects I agree with, certain stuff I disagree with. His comments about cats, men liking cats is gay, disagree with that. Cats are awesome. But now it's as I said, Alex Hormozy, people like that are more what I'm. If you look at my feed, you're going to see Alex Hormozy, Chris Williams, and you're going to see stuff like that. I'm now trying to shift myself away from listening to the good and bad of everyone, because you can get so caught up into seeing the good and bad. I'm trying to curate my feed to what I need to see. There is enough bullshit going on in the world. I'm so far away from where I want to be in my goals. It's I'm 23 now. I've spent the last 5 years since I was 18, spending all that time on that version, the worst version of myself, who fun, on paper, did nothing. I got married, did stuff like that. All that's awesome. Spent the last 5 years giving into that worst version of myself, getting super lazy stuff. And I was okay, I give myself 5 years of the best version of myself. And it's Yeah, we could sit here all day, argue about like Taylor Swift, Andrew Tate, what we
Mm,
agree, what we don't agree with, and stuff. I feel like let's take the good stuff. There's enough bad
100%.
stuff in the world. We could sit here. I'm sure we could have an argument. I'm sure we could leave here screaming at each other, being like "fuck you," stuff like this. But like, what's the point? For our closing thoughts,
Yeah.
this moment right now, this is a time capsule. You can
Mm.
open this in 30 years' time. What do you want to say to your future self?
Say
Or
me.
what do you want your or what do you want your future self to say to current you?
I would say I would hope that my future self would say to current me that you're on the right track and that what you're doing now is the steps to get you to where you want to go, and all the work you're putting in now, all the sleepless nights, all the like personal growth and development, both personal and professional, is worth it. And I'm
Mm,
hoping that my future self is like getting the rewards for what I'm doing right now.
awesome. Well, guys, thanks for listening. This has been another episode of the Great Human Reconnect. Until next time.